Hey everybody, and welcome back to Elderberry Sprout. So today I'm going to be showing you how I made my Book of Shadows signature for my traveler's notebook using tea-stained paper with beautiful patterns printed on them. So let's get started. The first step of this process is finding some paper to work with. I have this huge stack that I scored for $3. This paper had ticker tape on the sides, so my first step was to peel all of that off. With the paper prepped, now it's time for me to print out my patterns. Say that 10 times fast. And I'd like to thank the Writing Witch for sending me this beautiful pack of Grimoire page printables. A link to her shop will be in the description box down below. The PDF that I was gifted was intended for full-size sheets, but I wanted to be able to use them as full-size sheets or half-size sheets, depending on what project I'm working on. So I just scaled these down to 50% and printed them 2 to a page on both sides. And now it's time to prepare for tea dyeing. Since this is going to be a magical journal for me, I wanted to make sure that I charged it with the right intention. So I started by setting up a little charging station on my altar. I want these pages to help me expand my energy and learn more about myself. I'd like to connect with deeper inner knowledge. So I chose purple as the altar cloth for this. So to start off, I use some boiling water. The tea that I'm going to be using for this process is called Dandy Blend. It's a natural tea product that acts kind of like an instant dissolve coffee. I tend to be slightly anxious and I'm really sensitive to caffeine, so I know using the Dandy Blend won't give me an anxious energy to my paper. And here I just added the amount that I thought would be dark enough to get me the paper results I wanted. And as I stir this, I'm adding my intention and love into this project. Watching the bubbles swirl on the top of this is such a meditative process. It reminds me of the shape of a toroidal energy field. Just seeing how energy spins in and out of it. I like to imagine the negative energy spinning out of the bottom and positive loving energy spinning into the top. And now it's time to add the paper. The way that these pages printed left a gap on the top and the bottom, and I don't mind that because it kind of leaves a space for like a heading. But I could have printed these in a way that would have stretched the image to fit properly. But I liked the scale it was at here. And here I just make sure that a little layer of tea gets on top of each page as I add it. As I'm doing this, I imagine the wisdom that I'm going to be learning through all of these pages, absorbing into the page itself. Another way you could be adding magic to this process is instead of using a fork like I am, you could be using some type of athame or a wand. Just make sure it's something that's not too sensitive to the heat. Now my tea is cooled down a little bit so I can use my fingers. The best wand around. And here I'm just saying a little prayer over the pages. And I let them sit for 4 hours. After that, I came back to inspect the pages to see if they were dark enough for my liking. And as you can see, it got some nice color on them. So let's take them to the kitchen to dry them out. To dry these pages, I'm going to be putting them in my oven. I did these pages at about 220 degrees for 7 minutes or so, but you'll have to experiment with your own oven. And here we can see some of the fun patterning we're getting. Got some pretty great results on these pages. And as you can tell, they're all warpy, so now it's time to iron them. I just used a normal old iron and I put it on about half heat, so like 4 or 5. And as I'm ironing, this is a good way to seal in your intentions. I'm focusing on the energy of loving myself and expanding my inner knowledge. And I'm sealing that in with this heat. When you make your own magical tools, these are the processes you can use to really imbue them with more magic. Anything that's slow and meditative, like ironing, is a really great opportunity to meditate on what you're trying to do. So now you can see all of the beautiful patterns that we've got here, with our nice flat pages. It's so fun to see the differentiation between the individual pages and how the dandy tea affected them. I've done this with mint tea as well. You really can do it with a lot of different types of tea. And now it's time to make our signature. So I start off by folding each page individually with my thumbnail. I choose which side I prefer so that that page is facing me. Because with each one of these pages you'll get 4 separate designs. So choose which one you like the best and have it face you in the front. That way when you thumb through this later, you'll be faced with all of your favorite pages. You could use a bone folder when folding these as well. However, I will say, depending on how long you bake your pages, they could be a little bit brittle along the edges. Now it's time to nest your pages. So here I am just double checking the patterns and which way I want them to all be aligned. And once they're all together, you have a beautiful little signature. Ta-da! And now here I'm just going to write shadow work on the front of my journal, because that's what I intend to use this for. When you're making magical journals, it can be really fun to experiment with fun and magical fonts. A place that I like to look for font inspiration is dafont.com. There's a million different open source fonts there for inspiration. You could also look for old magical manuscripts on archive.org. There's amazing resources there as well. And that's what it looks like. So even though we ironed these pages, there still is quite a nice crumply texture to them. And it didn't bulk up the pages too much. So let's take a look at the finished signature. So this signature, the only step that I did off of camera was folding and trimming the edge. So that was essentially just done. I did it with scissors. Most of the time I'll do it with a razor knife and a flat edge, but it turned out really good. I absolutely love how this turned out. I really like how printing beforehand and then doing the coffee dyeing, or I guess the dandy blend dyeing, gave it kind of this washed out design in here. It's absolutely beautiful. And then I did my little shadow work doodle on the front there. So here, let's do a little flip through. Oh yeah, and I wanted to show you guys what these look like before they're printed. So if I were to coffee dye the paper and then print on top of it, if I can get it flat enough and have it go through my printer without a problem, the design will be much more crisp. But that's not really what I was going for this time. So you could make them look beautiful and crisp like that, or you can have this washed out, more dilapidated old look to it. So let's see all the pages. I already started writing there. This is kind of a Valentine's Day prompt about what love means to me, or what it feels like in my body. And the way that I oriented these on the racks inside the oven, it allowed for me to have these horizontal lines instead of vertical lines. So it kind of gives you a guide of what's straight when you're writing, which is kind of nice. I love how some of these designs are more organic and curvy and flowing, and then some of them are a little bit more geometric. So you can really cater what you're writing about to what your page looks like. Like, look at this one. Isn't that fun? Skipped one. There we go. Oh, and that was something else. This last page, the one that has all these little splotches on there, that was from this being the bottom page in the tray. So there are a couple little splotches of Dandy blend that hadn't been fully mixed up into the liquid, so they weren't suspended properly, and that allowed for them, while it was drying, to kind of absorb more in these weird patterns. So that's kind of fun. But anyway, there's the finished signature. I absolutely love how this turned out. Thank you so much to the Writing Witch for gifting me this printable. If you guys are interested in getting this printable with a whole bunch of designs of the sun, I'll leave the link in the description box down below. I really think working with the energy of the sun since Imbolc has been really good for me, because sometimes, you know, the winter can be kind of sad. So focusing on the fact that the sun is returning, it's soon gonna be spring, you can hear the birds outside, it's a really inspiring energy to bring into your life again. If you guys aren't interested in buying printables, I have one page of a free printable that I designed just in case you guys didn't have money to be spending on beautiful designs. So it takes quite a while to design these, so just keep in mind that it's a really valuable thing that the Writing Witch is doing for us, giving us these beautiful empty page templates to work in. Yeah, anyway, they take a long time to design, so it's definitely worth investing in a set if you really like the designs in them. Then you can just use them over and over again. Anyway, if you want the printable for these 2 free downloads, check down in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good rest of your day. Bye. Oh, the end. Bye.